dream and dreaming, they have really kind of caught the attention of people since time immemorial. There have been multiple perspectives, multiple theories, some very good ones also, that reflect on dreaming and how to make sense of dreams, right? But in today's talk, since I am trained in psychoanalysis, and apart from psychoanalysis, I really don't know much in life, so I'm going to restrict to this perspective. So please bear with me, and if you have alternate perspectives, you're most welcome to share them, kind of thing. But I'm largely going to restrict myself to this perspective. This is not to say that I don't feel that other perspectives can add a lot of value, but it's a matter of one's experience, training, exposure, what one knows, kind of thing. So on that note, I would start this talk. Yeah, so first of all, let's go to this, the word of caution, right? When we are interpreting a dream from a psychoanalytical perspective. So what is the caution? The caution is, as I said, that it requires an extensive training and experience. This is not to say that people cannot interpret dreams intuitively. Some people have a very good sense of other people's dreams. Some people can look at their own dreams and come up with very spontaneous intuitive interpretations. But when we are talking about looking at dreams from a psychoanalytical perspective, it requires actually this interesting thing that you have to go into the world of dreamer and look at the dream from their world. At the same time, you should have a lot of knowledge of what your inner world, what your inner mind is. Otherwise, it's very, very highly possible that one ends up interpreting one's own world to the other person, which may be useful in some ways, but it may not be really true. So that's why we are saying, that it requires extensive training and experience. As I said, it is very important to understand one's own unconscious as deeply as possible. We all have a part of mind that is unconscious. By that I mean that we do many things, we have many thoughts, we have many emotions about which we know, we have some inkling that these are there, but about which we also largely don't know. So it's like this, and it's often this kind of experience that when we are living our life, we'll be wondering, oh, I did this, but I really don't know why I did this. I've made up my mind so many times that I'm not going to go back to this person. I feel really hurt, but I still end up going back to that person. That's what unconscious is. That there are parts of you, feelings inside you, needs inside you, which you have some connection to, but not a full connection to. And so very large chunks of life are lived in sort of this unthought, unknown zone. And that's where we say that it's important to understand this unthought, unknown zone. Dream interpretation, as I will highly also say, as a word of caution, it's not magic. We all, in fact, when I also came to psychology and when I started my training in psychoanalysis, the whole thought, that you could interpret dreams, it was making me feel so powerful, like for the very first time when I was about to read this thing, about this thing, I was like, oh, maybe when I learn this thing, anyone can shoot a dream at me and I can shoot back a wonderful interpretation, that would hit bang. But psychoanalytic dream interpretation is not so powerful, it's not so interesting, it's like a labor of love. You have to stay with the dream and with the dreamer for quite some time. You need to know a lot about their own self to be able to do this. It requires a very good deal of understanding about the personality and the unconscious mind of the dreamer and any of their dreams. Once again, it is very lucrative to say that you could get an understanding about someone very quickly. In part, when we talk to any person at length for say 45 minutes or 1 hour, and the person is speaking out their heart to us, we do feel, and the person also feels that we are getting to know a lot about themselves. But it's my experience of listening to the same person for hours and hours and months. There's so much to self, there's so much to personality. There are so many interesting sides, there are so many unknown sides, there are so many dirty, dark sides kind of thing that they take time to come kind of thing. So all this thing also influences a dream interpretation, that the more we know this person's mind, the better we would be at the dream interpretation. Uh, it's also interesting that one way of looking at the dream is that we just look at the content of the dream, and another thing is that we look at its total context, which means that what dream does the person remember, how much does he or she remember, what does he or she forget from the dream, at which point the person is telling you the dream. That's also very important, that someone comes in and someone is very anxious and tells you that, oh God, no, I just dreamed of this thing. Or like when you are in a very comfortable space with that person, then the person tells you that. So that is also very important. Many times I've had very interesting people who would, we are just ending a session and they will say a dream, oh, last night I had this dream where I thought of suicide, and I killed myself in the dream. And you feel, oh, the session has ended, and this is a very now what to do kind of thing about this dream. Should you go exploring? So the time is also very important, and that's the way, because when someone is narrating you their dream, they are just not narrating you the dream, they are also inviting you to get involved in their dream. They are relating to you via that dream. When we tell someone something, it's not just that I'm simply pouring my heart or my mind down there. I'm also inviting that, because we don't go about telling our dreams to just everyone whom we meet on the road. It's like someone special whom we tell our dreams to. So that's what's important, that to whom are the dreams told to and in what manner. All these questions are like very interesting. Right. So here I would just like to pause and I'd like to know quickly from you all kind of thing, and what has been your experience? Have you had dreams? Have you tried to make sense of those dreams by your own self? And I mean, what are the ways did you use, and how have you been at them kind of thing? I know it's a lot to kind of ask and also for you to talk about, but if at least one or two people of you could just throw a reflection on this, that would be really great. That someone who dreams and someone who thinks about their dreams and someone who tries to make some sense of their dreams kind of thing. No, this person is nodding such a big head, and I'm like, that can I just jump to my slide back to yeah, but Matthew, yeah.
For the longest time I've kept a dream journal.
Great.
It's very interesting.
So maybe we should invite you over here then, and maybe here then.
No, I'll wait for the borderline.
Oh, okay.
There were times that I remember my dreams in detail.
Okay.
And there are times when I remember them very sporadically and just flashes. But the interesting thing is that I remember colors in my dreams. Which I think I remember colors because I'm not 100% sure. It's just, I just thought that it would open up a whole other side to, knowing the self and then handling my own issues before they become, my issues come out in the therapy room when I'm sitting, with my clients or patients and going, Mother, what are you doing here? So I didn't want that to happen. So, it's just, it's very fascinating. It's very interesting.
It is very fascinating, and that's one reason, that I also became very interested in this topic, because to tell you something about myself, I generally have dreams. I generally used to have dreams. Thankfully, I don't have such dreams now, which were like a whole Bollywood movie, like big scene after scene, colors, and songs, and hundreds of people in the dream. And when I started my training, I used to write down my dream, and at times it used to just run into 3.5 pages, one dream, and it used to be like such a. I used to really get. the thought of that you would take it for some interpretation was like just too much for me, kind of thing. Then I finally did discover the reasons behind them. Thankfully, I don't have such big dreams now. I have like very decent small dreams, can be put into 4-5 lines. That's great for me now. Yeah. Anyone else who would like to share? Yeah.
I used to do that myself.
We can also do one thing maybe. Sorry to interrupt you. You could just tell your name and just in one line that what do you do, because that will help us in getting some context and also for all of us to know each other. Yeah.
I'm Nalini.
Okay.
And I'm a child psychologist. I've been working a lot in
Great.
schools
Yeah.
with special kids and otherwise.
Yeah.
And this is a topic is we've been just doing because I've been getting dreams all around my life.
Okay.
And some of them are quite recurrent. And the ones which are recurrent I keep on track of. Because most of the times I'm able to analyze them myself. Most of the time. And like she said that she keeps a journal, I've been doing that. And if you see the diary, it has like in 1 year it's got about 50 or 60 odd dreams or something like that. Yeah, I've managed to analyze them myself.
Okay.
You know, depending on the current situation I'm in or whatever.
Okay. Okay. I think the 3 chairs here could also be utilized. So please do that. Right. Anyways, so we move on to dream analysis. I'll just briefly give you 3 methods that are available in psychoanalytical practice by which we can make some sense of our dreams. But like as I often say, that dream interpretation is a lot more beyond these 3 methods. Right? These 3 methods can just be used as a map, I would say. You know, but when you go into a real, like when you are seeing something as a map, and when you are going in real to find something, that's a totally different thing. But they are very good as maps of what you can find in that. So the method A is actually the most traditional method. It's the most long, elaborate method, which was given by Sigmund Freud and then has been extended by people. So what is done in method A, and I would be also coming to some specific dreams of people and their interpretation, so that this doesn't just sound a direct copy from the textbook. This is kind of thing, yeah. So the method A is that the dreamer is told to relate to the dream in as much detail as possible. And remember that those were the days when people used to go for analysis 5 times a week, 4 times a week. The patient had a lot of time. I'm talking about 1910 and 11. The therapist had time, so the dream used to be like related to the therapist would say, fine, you have this dream. Let's look at each and every image, part, element specifically. And the way we go in psychoanalysis is that the dream, any dream is broken down into various parts. As many parts, as many images you could make from the dream, and then the person is asked to consider each element of the dream and in turn say what exactly comes to their mind. Free association is the main method used in dream analysis and psychoanalytical therapy also, where the person just holds the image in their mind and just attends to whatever is spontaneously coming. You don't banish whatever is coming. It could be very important, it could be very frightening, it could be very depressing, it could be very trivial, it could be very dirty, it could be very funny. Anything under the sun. It's more like this meditative attitude where you don't shun anything that comes to your mind, but you would engage with that image. So that's what free association is. And so the person continues to associate to the dream and look at all the new material that comes up. Yes,
I have 2 questions here. A lot of times we don't remember our dreams.
Right.
So how do we go about doing the detailing part of it after getting up?
See, the easiest way is, and that's the beauty of dreams, because they are a work of art. They are not science. In science, you need to remember everything very astutely, all connections, all parts, and everything. But anything that you remember from the dream, you may not remember the whole dream. It could be just one image, one part, one sentence. You could just hold that in mind and start dwelling on that. That may not help you to recollect the entire dream, but that would give you an insight into what it is about. So people should not really, I would say that don't really bother so much about what you remember, what you don't remember. I mean, what you remember is very good enough to start from. You have another question, or you said 2 questions?
Yeah. The other aspect is, like after we get up, we start up this process, or do we, tell our subconscious mind and then go off to sleep that, I'll recollect when I get up or something of that. Because we don't know when exactly do we dream and which one do we remember, which one do we forget.
It's actually up to you, and in these things it's very nice to be spontaneous, right? That's one thing. One should not really take it as a work of science, because then you will find dream interpretation such a taxing thing after like 3 weeks that you just throw away your dream journal. So if you get up and feel, oh, this is something really important or interesting, and I feel like writing it down right now, do that. If you feel, I'm just too tired and I would just like to sleep and unwind, and maybe dream can wait till the morning, fine. If you have to rush for your office in the morning and feel that office is more important, and maybe dream can wait till the evening. So dreams can actually also wait. Many times I've had people who have told me some dream which they had years back. The same has happened with me also. I have also remembered some very old dreams, and so looking back at them in the current context and in the past context also makes sense. It's just that, right? So we need not be here like researchers who are working in a molecular biology lab. We are not that kind of thing, right? We have a lot of free space and play and creativity with us and time with us, right? And that's the difference. If you go to someone to get their dream interpretation, then that person will also associate to various parts of your dream and have a look at what feelings are coming up in them. Which does not mean that you need to go to a therapist. You could also do it with a very good friend, someone whom you trust and someone whom you can confide in, that you can tell them your dream, then you both could sit and break it into parts, and then the person could also start associating to various parts. How do they feel about each part? How do they feel about each image? What does come up in their mind at each part? Right? But then it should be like a very good friend. Otherwise, like after we go like 3 steps into the unconscious, things start getting dirty. We don't really want too many people to be there.
But sometimes we find people are known to us in dreams.
Right.
The environments and places are quite unknown.
Right.
Sometimes places are known and the people around in the dream,
Right.
they are not connected to us.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, very right. See, you're very right. Dreams, in fact, are like a sleeping fantasy. It's like we talk about daydreaming. Daydreaming, it happens that we are in a daydream, and I may not have seen, what like Ghana looks like. But in my fantasy, I could simply go to Ghana and maybe imagine some trees over there, some chimpanzees over there, some nice exotic fruits over there. So dreams are like sleeping fantasies. Like inner fantasies, we weave many things. Dreams are also like that. They are actually an art of mind. So that's there. And in fact, like so, we need to kind of have this kind of a free space. Like where we approach a dream with this idea that here is something that I have experienced and something maybe which I have not experienced, something which is known to me and something which is completely unknown to me. Yeah, and then the other person or the therapist uses the patient's associations as well as their own associations and knowledge of this person. That's very important. In fact, if you engage with one person over a period of time, then dream interpretation makes a lot of sense. If you are doing it totally new with no matter how experienced a person, that will really not lead you too far. So because it is like that, you have to really know the person in detail to do good, deep dream interpretations, right? And then you can, based on your curiosity, spontaneity, experience, you could also intervene more actively with questions, observations, some kind of trial interpretations. Dream interpretations are always like the way we do, they are very open. We simply say that this could mean that. We are not saying that this exactly means that or this could be like that, because the unconscious is the unconscious of the person. Neither do we know his or her unconscious, neither the person knows. Only the person is the best judge to say that yes, this clicks with me. So dream interpretation is also actually a lot about clicking. We are not archaeologists who are like going into something and digging something out and saying that look this is what it means. We are more like interpreters. Just like you have folklores and myths. Each folklore has multiple interpretations. Dream also can have various interpretations, and dreaming and dream interpretation ultimately has a role that what or how much sense does it make to the dreamer, or how does it help the dreamer in maybe going further in their life. That's what it is about. So as I said, that the dreamer has the last word in dream interpretation. No matter how experienced, how trained you are, your narcissism should not get into dream interpretation. It can go in professional associations where you could stand up and write good papers on dreams and talk it out over there. But it should not go with this person. So any thoughts or interpretations that are suggested by the therapist or by someone else also should only be considered possibilities, hypotheses. It is up to the dreamer to decide what is useful or what is authentic. Rather than this question that what is authentic, the main question is what is useful for me. That whatever is being said, is it making sense to me? Is it making me go somewhere further in my life? Is it helping me resolve something that I'm really stuck about? That's what dream interpretation is. Coming to method B, and all these three methods, they are actually very intertwined. They are very related, so it's not that they are like very different from each other. And if you have a look at method B and C, they are more like, they were developed later to save time. No one has so much of time to really split and dissect dream kind of thing. So method B is a slightly shorter and also a slightly more intimate method, more creative also, where the dreamer is allowed to imagine taking the role of each individual or character or object in the dream. Right? So if you have a tree in the dream, so you actually hold the image of tree in the mind and you think, you just imagine or you fantasize that what is this tree like? What is it thinking? What is it being? What is this tree's being? Similarly, if you see an animal, if you see a human, so you look at the dream from vantage points of each and every character or image in the dream. And you pay attention to all that because this interesting change of viewpoint when you look at the dream from various aspects, because ultimately what also happens is that the dream actually is a lot about our own life. And many times what we see into different images or different parts into different people, they can also be parts of our own self which we are not so much in touch with. So that is, this method actually takes you a lot closer to these things. And this change of viewpoint often leads to a very important knowledge for the dreamer, because all objects in the dream may hint towards various parts of yourself. Coming to method C, like most economical, time-saving one, here, like you focus at the central image of the dream, the most important. We may have big dreams, we may have short dreams, but something about the dream that catches us. That is very personal, that is not personal, but that holds us emotionally or that holds us intellectually, tied to that image very strongly. So we pick up this image, and this image which is most important for the dreamer, and an attempt is made to identify, examine, and sometimes intensify the underlying emotion. That when you hold this image in your mind, what is the feeling that comes up? Is it like happiness, sadness, anger, rage, mixture of feelings? Because it is very rare that you just have one feeling. Feelings always are mixed, and they are a mixture. And this often uncovers important material which was previously unconscious for the dreamer by just dwelling on this central image and focusing on your emotions, and also looking at various thoughts that may come up vis-a-vis this central image. So, and yeah, another interesting thing about dream is, like you were saying, so the dream can be both experiential, and dreams are actually also very, very symbolic. Because you need to understand that dreams, the language of dreams is images. The main language of dreams is actually images, which is a pre-verbal language. We develop words later. First of all, we have, like when we are born and when we are developing language, the first language that comes to us is this pre-verbal language of images. So the language of dreams is actually this pre-verbal language, and that's why it's so close to unconscious. It's actually this arena where words can never reach. So all we are actually doing is to translate one language into another language. And so, the dream, in the dream, your feelings may be like expressed as images. Like, to give you one example that which was very interesting. Like one of my clients, she saw icy cold water in the dreams, and we actually for a moment we actually split away here. That has she ever been to Antarctica? She has never been to Antarctica. She has never been outside India. So then, like, where did she see this icy cold water? So it was actually a visual representation of feelings of emotional isolation. When you are we often say in Wordsworth that it was very cold in that relationship. So that's how it comes in the dream. This icy cold water is that coldness or emotional isolation. Right. I'll just now go to an extended example, and this is the most extended example we have, because I thought if I put in more extended examples, we have more examples coming, but then we would have needed half a day or 1 day more. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
So the icy cold water, isn't water also a symbol? Doesn't it have some kind of connotation as well?
Okay, yeah. See, and we always have to wait for symbolism as a topic, because Angeline will be talking about that. But I'd just like to mention here one thing about symbols, because when dream interpretation started in psychoanalysis with Freud, he actually gave many symbols and what they mean. So they were very interesting ones, and one loves. So
because you didn't interpret the dream completely.
Yeah, so few very interesting ones. जो मैंने पढ़ा, मैंने बहुत सोचा, like this image of a staircase in the dream. Freud said it's like intercourse, and Freud actually, about many things, Freud said that they are intercourse. So for many images, Freud thought that they are sex and intercourse. So staircase and cases and intercourse. Similarly, I think the pit also is an intercourse, and I mean all things are intercourse as per Freud. Sorry if we have someone who's a very dedicated Freudian over here. I'm not, so please pardon me. Right? And but yeah. So talking about the current status of symbols in dreams, each culture, each civilization does have certain unconscious and conscious symbols, and there are meanings attached to them. Right? So when you see something in the dream which is very symbolic kind of thing, what I would say is that you can think that it could be that, but keep that as one of the hypotheses. It is highly erroneous to go into this whole zone that agar staircase hai to intercourse hai kind of thing. So
that's Freud.
Yeah, that's Freud, because staircase also is about self-growth. That when you are rushing up a staircase, you are also growing. You are also like coming up kind of thing. So staircase can also be a lot of things. It can also be that you are running from someone kind of thing. So it can also be an escape. It can be multiple things. Okay, so I will not really go into Freud's theory of unconscious. That can be a talk, and that can be a talk that I don't really want to do kind of thing. Okay, so but what I would say is that there have been many controversies and many theoretical revisions of Freud's text, which is rightly so. Freud was a human, a mortal. He was in a specific time period with a specific set of tools and understandings, though he was a very brilliant person, I would say. But what he said, it cannot be taken as the word of the God, and it was never meant to be kind of, because also Freud did revise his own theories in his own lifetime, so people forget that many times, right? But interestingly, despite controversies and theoretical revision, and that's why, as compared to any other psychoanalyst in the world, Freud is still the bestseller. People still buy On Sexuality, Interpretation of Dreams. People still buy, and they are like, you walk into any bookstore, they are available over there, right? So, yeah, but what has remained despite all revisions, research, various understandings, there have been so many wonderful people in analysis after Freud, really wonderful souls who I feel quite sad about. They are not so well known as Freud is. And but what has stayed on is this Freud's idea, and I'm very sure that many people before Freud had also given that idea, but in modern psychotherapy, Freud was the one who brought this whole idea about the unconscious mind. It was not his discovery. There have been many people before Freud, don't ask me, I'm bad at history, who have told about unconscious. No one asked me that question. Who talked about unconscious, but Freud did it before this century in the field of psychotherapy, so that's his contribution. And that thing has stayed on. In fact, many modern researchers do talk about this whole subliminal mind, subconscious, unconscious, whatsoever. And we now also know that what becomes unconscious in a given individual depends upon a range of factors. So it's never in stone. It is the interaction of early upbringing, life events, socio-cultural, historical factors, and the person's own inner world and temperament. So many things make an unconscious. Human mind operates on more than one level. Many people say there are many levels of mind, and there's There are certain parts which remain outside of our awareness due to either they are too painful for us, or we have never actually got the words or the idea to pay attention to them, right? So many times we just don't know what is. And yet, the interesting thing or the beauty or the misery of these things is that they hold us by horns and they influence our lives. The unconscious is like that. Right. Some important postulates of Freud's dream theory, though not of interpretation. Mind you, the method that he gave, the method A, that is still very valuable kind of thing, and that has not changed. People have had very different opinions about symbols. Many people have criticized his meaning of symbols, I being one among them kind of thing, but the method of interpretation has not been refuted. People still find a lot of value in that method. And the way I look at it is that dreaming has a value of its own in the therapeutic process and in the life process also, even if the underlying dream theories may have been modified, right? Dreams have no absolute truth. That's again what I feel, and again what some other people feel. It's not supposed to be again something in stone. They are a creative process of mind, and they are what we call this pre-verbal, irrational, primitive form of thought continuum. These are terms. Don't ask me what this exactly means. It just means that it's a different part of mind in the mind terms, right? So Freud believed that dreams were mental phenomena designed to preserve sleep. This has been refuted by modern sleep research. They say that dreams are a very natural, normal process of brain which occurs during, just as when we are awake and our mind is thinking and wandering, when we are asleep, our mind is again, working and wandering. So that's what dreaming is. उसमें कुछ ऐसा नहीं होता. Freud ने तो बड़ा interesting लिखा था that they, that they are like gatekeepers of sleep. They are this or that sleep. So he has really, taken the dreams on a pedestal. And again I said that I feel actually that there's no use in going, there's no use in splitting their role why we dream. But, or what is the true meaning of a dream? Many people, there are many papers, conferences dedicated to this kind of thing. But I think that the better question is that what could this dream signify? That's a more better usage of your own time, the person's time, and everyone's time. That how can we kind of make a better use of what we dream, provided you are also interested and the other person is also interested. No one should be forced into dream interpretation. That would be like a very horrible thing. Because even if the person does not have bad dreams, if you force someone into dream interpretation, they will start having very bad dreams. So one should never do this kind of a torture on someone. And so the dream language, it relates thought language, and it's a picture language. As I was saying, that it's a language of visual imagery, and it is very rich in symbolic relationships. The meaning of dream, as we say, can only be ascertained with help of dreamers' associations and memories. As we in psychoanalysis say, people outside have very different methods and they do very different kind of work, which also might be very useful. This is what is now generally believed, that the language of dream, even though there may be some universal symbols, but it's a very private language. Even if there's a universal symbol in the dream, how the person relates to that symbol in his own life, in his own context, is very individual and intrapsychic. And it is also generally felt that when you do dream interpretation, so the person is like in part willing to get the dream interpreted, in part unwilling also. Right? So that is there because the dream is into this zone where where you want to go but you also don't want to go. So there's a conflict around it. And many times, when we look at dreams in psychotherapy, that often initial indication of a significant kind of a decision towards a healthy behavior or some kind of a change in treatment, it can come up in dreams, right? This was the theoretical stuff. Now I would go to the types of dreams. These are again the broad types that have been documented in psychoanalytic literature. There can be various other subtypes also, for sure. This was the very first idea of Freud, and it is also still believed that dreams are like wish fulfillment. By that we don't mean that dreams are helping us to fulfill our wishes. No, they don't obviously. But that that our wishes, what we want, they come up very easily in the dreams at times. Yeah. It's Also, just like that, I also feel that if you're looking about dreaming, it's also like, gulping down tequila, because it kind of, it just numbs your sensor and you start doing interesting things. So in dreaming also your sensor is numb. And so interesting things come out. That's why very interesting wishes, and at times we are like, we are very surprised. Oh, it's a dreaming, kind of, that happens. So, dreaming serves to fulfill anxiety-provoking wishes. Anxiety-provoking because you may find them not too good in your conscious life, and you may not be really wanting to go about sharing them with everyone. So that's why they're anxiety-provoking. In your private life, they may not be so anxiety-provoking, obviously. And we usually have wishes, like our mind is actually full of many contrasting, contradictory wishes, because I have an identity of my own, I have a sense of self, there's a part of me which wants to hold my sense of self high. There are certain parts in me which don't go with my dominant self-image, which I have to hide, suppress, but yet I want to live them out also, kind of thing. And since the time internet has come, like, we get so interesting cases of, like, I have many women calling me up at random and telling me, oh my God, I'm in this marriage for the last 15 years, this loyal person, and I just discovered the laptop and the cell phone, and it's so full of dirty talks and everything, what is happening, So I think the internet is actually giving more space to unconscious, to unfold kind of thing. So that is unconscious is having a nice life, but people's conscious life is getting ruined. So, yeah, but I'm not an internet hater, so that's okay. I think that both conscious and unconscious are very important. You need to gratify them both. So, yeah, so these wishes, they clash with their identity, moral values, and dominant affectionate feelings. The process of dream work, the dream work is also like a hide and seek, it's like this chupan chupai, which expresses, it's like peekaboo in which hides, so it tells about, it's like both expressing and it's both hiding at the same time. So that's like, so dreams also have a very playful quality to them, kind of thing. And now there will be short examples, so will not be taken to a very extended example like that one. So this is a dream of Miss C, who is a 31-year-old unmarried female, and being the third girl child of a parent, she had to face a cold rejection from her parents and the larger joint family by growing up, quite natural in her culture, like a generation ago. Now thankfully things changing. She feels unloved and enraged in most of her personal relationships and has a very defective view of herself. So that's what, like, such a childhood will do to you. One, it will give you a very low self-confidence that you are, down to dust. And this is something which is very hard to at times come out with for some people. Some people do manage to come out of it also. And she feels unloved, because when you would not be really valued and cherished for who you are, and these things, see, no one really goes around telling their child that I don't value you. It's very simple. The way you would, engage with different children in your child, the way you would pick them up, kind of thing, the way you would celebrate their birthdays, kind of thing. How many guests are coming on each one's birthday? What present are you buying? Kind of thing. Is it for 10,000? Is it for 5,000? It's a very subtle things. They do give us the message. No one goes about giving the message very consciously that I don't value you. No parent does that kind of thing. So, because parents also at times do it at an unconscious level. They don't like what they see, and so they are not able to reciprocate with that feeling. Yeah, so she continues to feel unloved and enraged in most of her personal relationships and has a very defective view of herself. So she comes up with this dream and said, last night I had a terrible dream, a professional kitchen's huge pot full of hot soup, and I pushed my father into it. What aggressive dream, nasty dream, And his body came apart slowly, and I was wondering whether to throw away the soup or to drink it. So a very cannibalistic ritual here, kind of thing. I woke up in terror because that's the conscious mind. How could I dream such a horrible dream? So the associations were a pot of soup. So she says, I wanted to, again I have edited like a long dialogue. So otherwise it's not so simple, that for each thing you get such a perfect thing. It takes time. So a pot of soup, I wanted to build a professional career for myself as an engineer, but my parents thought it was a very masculine thing to do and pushed me into home science. So that's something very interesting that happens. Like, when someone is being devalued for some quality of theirs, they actually want to be the opposite at times, right? And the struggle actually intensifies. They may want to be the opposite. Families wanting to push them into so engineering and home science is like very stark. When we are also talking about symbols, so there are also these very personal symbols. When you think about engineering and home science, they are very stark symbols in some way, at least for a generation back. Maybe the present generation, they are not so stark. So she continues, I hated home science. I had to drag myself to the college every day. Imagine someone wanting to be an engineer and do home science. That's a completely different thing. It was extremely non-stimulating and frustrating, obviously, when you are interested in machines. And at times I think I'm unlucky. Had I been a male, everything would have been fine. So there are feelings of suppressed rage also and guilt also. Guilt and rage are friends. Wherever you feel angry towards someone, you will trash your own self. So they are like very close good friends. So and here this is not so much about dream interpretation, but because it was a therapy session also, so I said something like that. I said, come to think of it, did you have a choice whether you could be a male or female? So I just wanted to make this person think over, her own guilt. So she says no. And then I said, I guess it is easier for you to blame yourself than feel angry towards the parents whom you love and care for, because that's what happens in close relationships. We love the same person, we are angry towards the same person, and we can't really do much, about our anger. Either we suffer from a lot of guilt, or we do other things, which are, people take drugs and stuff like that to deal with this thing. And then she starts crying and says, quite true, they cared for me and guided me, which they did. They were good parents, they are pillars of my support, but they never held me closely and kept me at a distance. And I was also very touched, because she actually showed me this. She said that a baby is held like this. I feel I was held, but I was held like this. So I was not taken close to heart. So that's her general feeling, that I was held very nicely by strong hands with a lot of care, but not close to my heart. Maybe my brother was closer to the heart, right? And I had to give up so many desires just because they could not deal with the fact that I was female. So then we go on to the next image, wanting to drink the soup and throw it away, that has your father in it. She says, as a child, I used to imagine, if there could be a pill which could turn me into a male, it would be wonderful. So, and there's also this very oral element in the dream, that the father is a male. It's like a male pill, that she is also wondering, that it's like both her rage and also this male pill, that she's really wondering at this pot of soup, that should I drink it and become a male, or should I not become a male, kind of thing. So she says, I liked what boys and men did, but feel so angry also at the same time why the women are second-rate citizens. That's how unconscious conflicts are. That you want to be that, but you also feel very strongly against that, kind of thing. And why are they not free to be? So I saw this theme of conflict around the masculine and the feminine identity in her. She has both the parts, but they are in some kind of a conflict due to her life experience. So this is again like a final thing, that the dream seems to tell us a lot. I said, firstly, it brings us in touch with the intense, helpless rage which you experienced towards your parents for rejecting you because you were a female. Because you love them so much, you feel guilty and turn this rage back on your own self. Secondly, it also brings out the conflict you experience around your identity. A part of you wishes to be male, as in your context it was valued. However, there is another part of you which hates this and wants equal rights and acceptance of femininity. So that's what a tentative is, which again made sense to this person. Can't really say whether that was true or not, it made sense to her. So the second category of dreams, and we'll be taking the questions once I finish this, and you also have something to add, otherwise you really get lost, so you could note down the questions that you have. Dreams as expressions of traumatic past. There are certain dreams which are efforts to master a trauma. The mind goes through the traumatic material again and again so as to integrate thoughts and feelings, face them and heal itself. A very classic thing about traumatic dreams is that there would be actually a lot of repetition in them. People who have been traumatized, and I do work with a lot of people who have been through intensive trauma, they have dreams which repeat, kind of thing, and they repeat many times as is with small modifications or with no modification at all. these dreams are repetitive, recurrent, and they leave the person with an intense dread. That's what traumatic dreams are. And then coming to dreams as a snapshot of self, right? Which means that dreams can also be a reflection not just of your wishes, your relationships, but also of your inner self, right? This inner I. So dreams also are at times a mirror of this I, who you are, or who you think you should be, or who you can be, right? So many times figures appearing in the dream, they represent parts of the dreamer's own personality and various disturbances in self. And these dreams, which we also call the self-state dreams, they reflect various aspects of a person's self-function, including the body image, character traits, feelings, values, hopes, ideals, aspirations, and in the list is endless. Whatever you associate with yourself, that can figure out in the dreams. So this is an example of this. Mr. J, whom I would call like this, a 25-year-old man saw a recurrent dream that he was hanging on an airplane which crashed down. He had the same dream for many days at 4 a.m. in the morning, and when people have these dreams, they are actually so dreaded. You know, this whole business of having the same dream at the 4 a.m., their mind gets working with something supernatural, is like, you know, going to kind of engulfing. They are very skilled, right? Especially if you have the same dream at the same time. You know? So this person also kind of said that I have the same dream at the same time and I wake up in terror, right? And I'm further terrorized and I run into panic when I see the clock and it's 4 a.m. Right? So because after it happened on 3 occasions, he had felt that when he woke up, he wanted this, कि चलो dream तो आ गया ऐसा time पर दूसरा हो 5 बजे हो 6 बजे हो 2 बजे हो 1 बजे हो, but 4 a.m. was like very scary. So the dream actually was a reminder of a traumatic childhood. Mr. J was separated from his biological parents and given away for adoption at 4 years of age. At that time, he felt that something broke within himself, but had no words for this. So this 4 a.m. and 4 years, it is rare. It's not common. I mean, this is one case where I saw this. So don't conclude, that if 4 comes in the dream, it will mean something 4 in personal life. At times there are very interesting connections. At times may not be. So for this person, and that's why I put this dream over here. It's an unusual thing that this whole thing that this age 4 and this 4 a.m. had a lot of symbolic meaning for this person. And this whole image also, let's see how the dream is being expressed in a visual image, that he's hung on an airplane and the plane crashes down. Whereas what it is that there's a break or there's a crash down of a self, right? I think you are also being passed the feedback forms, so please do fill them before you leave. If you plan to leave, earlier, so that we get an idea how you found the talk, and we could also come up if you have some suggestions or some topics that you want us to focus on. We could do that in future. So that was what this dream was about. Another interesting way that the dreams would also come are as dreams as mirrors of relationships. So dreams also reflect a lot on the relationships. The relational dimension of the dream, in fact, is very interesting. The way the dreamer relates to his or her dreams in analytic treatment, or even when they are telling to a friend or to their spouse, is also very interesting. So, like to give you a very small example. If you have a spouse who does not care, is not bothered, what is happening to you, one way to engage that spouse is that you get up in terror in the night and shout and say, oh, I had this horrible dream, kind of thing. And maybe then you will expect, a hug, a glass of water, and some talking which you may not. So dreams are not, and see, people are not manipulating when they are doing it. It is happening very smartly, unconsciously, because the needs are operating at that level. So dreams are also a way of drawing attention, engaging, relating. It's more like this, that when a child makes a drawing and how he calls people to show them that, this is the drawing. The child is also not just showing the drawing, he's maybe asking that, I want you to say that your drawing is good. I want you to say that you are good, kind of. So the same goes with the dream. The dream is also a drawing of the self, and people engage, people draw other people to their dream, to their self in that manner. So dreams tell us about the way the dreamer relates to people in his or her life, right? Many times, like I have had this experience with few patients, like if they have a lot of hatred towards their therapist and they can't express it consciously and they know that the therapist is interested in dream interpretation, they shoot very long, nonsensical, meandering dreams, and they would say, yeah, I want to interpret this, so, and you could be like, going split and split and split over each dream but not find anything, so it's, that could also happen. So the dreams also tell us about the person's interpersonal world and the pattern of relationships also. Right, this interesting example of Miss Y, who's a 40-year-old female and had long dreams which resemble the following dream. Much like my own, but don't presume that I had the same reason, for having those dreams. I had a very different reason, which I haven't said, okay? It's personal. However, when we would interpret these dreams, you would actually get nowhere. So it's like that you have a very interesting piece in front of you, but you actually go nowhere. And that also happens, and that's why I say that dreaming actually, the reliability, if you do it in a very open manner, it's built into the dream. Because if the dream has a reliability to it, it will make sense, it will click something. If the dream does not click, then it's something, so we would actually get nowhere by interpreting. No matter, at times, in fact, there was this interesting, and she was so hell-bent that I interpreted her dream, she would write the dream on the paper, and about one dream we spent simply 4 sessions in that, thinking various associations to dream. Though that was not via me, she would come and say that no, I want to get it interpreted, and let's see, I'll give you all the material, more material that comes up, but you still get nowhere, kind of thing. So after several sessions in transference, transference is a super technical term for generally how the person, patient, client feels towards the therapist, right? So we discovered that Miss Y actually feared that I would find her very boring and stop seeing her, right? That she actually felt that she has nothing to offer. She's very poor from inside. She has nothing intellectual to offer, kind of thing, right? And in order to spice up her sessions and to make me engaged into her life and her internal world, she was dreaming interesting dreams rather than authentic dreams, kind of. So these were big dreams, like I in fact used to tell her, I said, aapka koi dream suno remind me of this old movie Mughal-e-Azam, with its this brilliant, glorious sheesh metal, but you just can't. But you can't just see anything in this sheesh metal apart from just the same image, kind of thing. It's the same image that comes up in all the classes, kind of thing. So that is what it is about. I'll stop here and we will carry on, and then we can have